Breaking news. President Donald Trump's aggressive tariff policy is now sending shockwaves through global financial markets and the domestic political landscape. While economies overseas struggle to process the impact of sweeping U.S. tariffs, at home, Trump is now facing the largest wave of protests since taking office. Public confidence is eroding, and cracks are emerging not only among his political opponents, but within his own Republican Party. This unfolding situation marks one of the most politically and economically volatile periods of Trump's presidency. Across America, voices of frustration and anxiety are rising. Financial pain is setting in, and the political consequences are beginning to take shape in real time. Let's break it all down. In the United States, polling reveals that two-thirds of Americans now believe President Trump is not doing enough to reduce living costs. Instead, more than half the country thinks he's placing too much emphasis on tariffs, a policy move that critics say is not only backfiring, but making life harder for the very voters Trump once pledged to protect. Back in January, a sizable 42% of Americans said they felt financially better off under Trump's leadership. But fast forward just a few months, and that number has been cut nearly in half. Only 23% now feel that Trump's economic policies are improving their financial situation. The numbers don't lie, and the trend line is steep. The president, however, remains defiant. His argument is that sometimes you need to take medicine to fix a problem. He's framed his tariff strategy as short-term pain for long-term gain. But Americans are beginning to question how much pain and for how long. While Trump's base has historically been loyal, even some of his wealthiest supporters, many of whom are heavily invested in the stock market, have seen substantial losses. Wall Street's recent plunge has wiped out billions in value. With global markets shaken and no end in sight to tariff escalation, panic is setting in among investors, business owners, and ordinary Americans alike. The political backlash is brewing, even from unexpected places. For the first time since Trump took office, some Republican lawmakers are openly challenging him, and not just behind closed doors. Members of both the House and Senate are now discussing legislative measures to reclaim the constitutional authority to set tariffs. Historically, that power belongs to Congress, but decades of delegation have allowed the presidency to operate with a freer hand. Now, some Republicans believe it's time to draw a line. However, any move to override Trump's trade authority would require a two-thirds majority in both chambers, a highly unlikely outcome in the current political climate. But symbolically, the growing discomfort within Trump's own party is important. It signals a possible shift, or at the very least, deepening fractures in the Republican unity that once shielded him from criticism. On the other side of the aisle, Democrats, often criticized for internal division, are finding rare unity. While the party has historically been split on the issue of tariffs, Trump's unpredictable and all-encompassing approach has united many factions. His policy does not discriminate between allies and adversaries. Instead, it targets friend and foe alike, including Canada, the European Union, and Japan. Critics argue that the tariffs are not part of a calculated long-term strategy, but rather a chaotic, short-sighted tactic. The result? A wave of bipartisan concern and widespread public backlash. Meanwhile, some of the most influential economic institutions in the world are issuing dire warnings. Top economists from Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, and The Economist are now suggesting that the U.S. is rapidly heading toward a recession. Just 5 months ago, the American economy was ranked as one of the most stable and robust in the world. Today, that optimism has collapsed. The turnaround has been swift, and it is being directly tied to President Trump's trade policies. Global leaders are now scrambling to respond. Over a dozen countries have sent representatives to Washington, pleading for exemptions or renegotiated trade terms. Even Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu flew to D.C. in an attempt to protect Israel's industries. But so far, Trump has shown no signs of softening. He seems emboldened. Trump has long preferred one-on-one negotiations over multinational trade agreements. He's been clear. He doesn't trust large alliances like the European Union. Instead, he believes the U.S. performs better when dealing directly with other countries. While that may appeal to some voters, it creates chaos on the global stage. Allies feel blindsided. Trade partners feel threatened. And even Trump's own cabinet appears divided on what the administration's true goals are. In recent days, high-profile business leaders like Elon Musk have also voiced concern. Musk, the CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, made headlines when he publicly stated that he would prefer zero tariffs between the US and Europe, a position directly at odds with Trump's advisors. This disagreement highlights growing confusion even among the country's top influencers. Insiders have revealed that some major policy decisions, including Trump's initial tariff announcement, were made with little preparation. In one notable case, Trump reportedly decided to go public with the plan just 3 hours before the official press conference, catching not just America's allies off guard, but his own cabinet as well. This level of improvisation, while not new for the Trump administration, is now raising red flags in both political and economic circles. Experts say it reflects a presidency driven more by instinct than strategy. Trump is a known tactician, acting in the moment, seizing headlines, but not known for long-term planning. Every day under his leadership brings new direction, new rules, and new challenges, both domestically and internationally. Already, we're seeing signs of division inside the administration. Cabinet members appear to be at odds, and several former Trump officials have begun to publicly distance themselves. While some believe the president is still operating from a position of strength, others worry that this approach could eventually implode, politically and economically. Looking ahead, the ripple effects could influence elections far beyond U.S. borders. In Canada, for instance, Trump's aggressive stance has unexpectedly strengthened the incumbent Liberal Party, who just months ago looked destined for defeat. The backlash against Trump's trade war has triggered a surge of national unity in opposition to American policy. A similar pattern could emerge in Australia, where the public response to Trump-era economics may influence upcoming elections. Political experts say we may be witnessing a new wave of global nationalism, not aligned with Trump's message, but in response to it. So what does all of this mean? Will President Trump scale back his tariffs to avoid economic disaster? Or will he continue doubling down, believing that chaos now will lead to strength later? At this moment, nothing is certain. What is clear, however, is that both the economy and the political system are under strain. Americans are bracing for impact. International leaders are recalculating strategies. And even Trump's most loyal allies are beginning to ask hard questions. We'll continue monitoring this unfolding story, bringing you the latest updates on global markets, trade negotiations, and the political fallout surrounding the Trump administration's high-stakes economic gamble. If you found this report valuable, don't forget to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to this channel for more breaking news, deep analysis, and unfiltered reports on the stories shaping our world. Your support helps us bring clarity to chaos. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for our next update.